Let's waste no time. Let's get right to the main act. The woman we love, the woman we are proud to call friend, Rachel Maynard. Is this, I mean, that's what it is. You get a bit of quality groping from Bobo, some rock and roll from the band.
That's right.
Another fashion home run. The boots have like a red zipper, a red stripe. I mean, you're in the pocket today, and yesterday. You dressed as your own wheels yesterday.
Yeah.
Today you got the racing stripe.
Awesome.
I love it. Rachel Miner, everybody.
It's a good way to start out the day. You need like a rich seal of approval. Yeah. How are you all? Are you still having fun? I feel like there was more enthusiasm yesterday. Are you like? I didn't want it to be like, oh, it's Rachel again. Never. No, usually today is the ladies' panel. But we're all broken up because like Ruth and Kim are in Birmingham, and yeah, I feel like I'm really missing that. But Brianna was just out here, right? Yeah. That's awesome. So I'm happy to follow up with that. So, yes. Should we start questions?
Hello. Yesterday you were talking about how you love to read, and I'm catching on to how literate and articulate you are. I'm curious, as a fan of fiction, what you think of this twist with Chuck and God, and basically we're all his puppets, and he's kind of a sociopath. What do you think of that?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I think it's one of the more you know, the more you're aware you don't know. So I was very not literate and not articulate. So thank you for that. So now, I love the twist. I love the fact that the show is really good at playing around with what is responsibility, what is power, what is the need to control versus the will to help. And I personally don't believe in the kind of patriarchal top-down approach to things in general. It's one of the reasons I love Random Acts so much, because I feel like we're actually talking to people and saying, what do you need, as opposed to, here, I'll tell you what you need, and here's how to do it. I don't think that works generally. So I think that they're going to be able to examine a lot of interesting things about what it means to be a one person's will. And I think that Heaven's been, for years, Heaven's been really iffy. And so I think they went kind of the bureaucratic route and the dangers of that with Heaven in general. And it looks like they're going to examine some of the dangers of autocracy with Chuck. So that's my personal, so I'm excited. I'm interested in what kind of questions they're going to bring up, and I think they're good at posing questions as opposed to forcing answers. Does any of that make sense, or?
I love your answer. No,
Okay.
I agree. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was a really good question.
I wanted to ask it yesterday, and I ran out of time.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love it. And my only problem is I love back and forth. Like, obviously, I would love to just have a salon where we can all talk about this, and I hear everyone's opinions, because I don't think mine's particularly any more valid, but it's a great question to ask. So thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, since there are a lot of fan fiction writers in this room, if you were ever given a chance to write an episode of Supernatural, what would you make it about?
I was actually asked that yesterday, That's crazy. So I don't know. It's a really open-ended question, and my mind goes. But I said I'm going to say some of the same things I said yesterday, which is like my mind starts racing. My imagination gets too big. Also, I so love what the writers of Supernatural bring to it that I'm very hesitant to say anything because I'm like I like getting the gift of seeing what they do, what stories they weave. But what I answered yesterday was that I've always thought it would be fun to examine kind of just the normal lives of these characters. So like I imagine Cass and Meg on a road trip and just trying to be normal people. And the same, I think even Dean and Sam, I think everyone would be really bad at just normal life. And I think to me, it is one of the hilarities of existence is how difficult and not well organized just everyday living is. And I don't feel like we all acknowledge that to each other enough. So I like seeing characters who are often confronted with these grandiose battles try to deal with just the everyday because it's often more difficult. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Thank you. It's a really interesting question. Although I feel like also it was one of the first times that I'd ever seen a negative response was because someone tweeted out my answer from yesterday. Someone else tweeted back like, I don't want them to waste one of the 20 episodes. And I was like, no way, I'm not saying I'm a writer. I have no say. I was asked a question and I answered it. I thought that was funny. Again, like that's not terribly negative, but this is such a wonderful, supportive group that I'm not used to that. And I wanted to like connect with that person, but I didn't indulge. Yeah, anyway.
Hi, my name is Cody.
Hi.
This is kind of a salon-style question.
Awesome.
And, it's my sister who's decided to go to the bathroom and miss this moment, so just...
Oh, she will not live that one down.
I kind of like it. Anyway, she and I were having the conversation of when you were up there. Isn't it interesting how if we were to put her in her Meg role right now, she looks a lot like Claire, and Jack looks a lot like Cass. And what is this magical, maniacal thing going on where everybody looks related to Cass? And I thought,
that's amazing.
what would you if that kind of meta moment got to happen, what would that be like to be like, hey Claire, you and I are like some kind of...
That's a really interesting point because I've often thought that Catherine actually looks a lot like my niece. Almost identical, like very much like my niece. So we definitely look like we could be related. You're not wrong about that. I think she's absolutely beautiful. So I'll take any association. But I love this scenario. It's a lot of fun. I think somehow Misha would like this scenario too. I think if something is making me think of like being John Malkovich, everyone is cast. But yeah, I don't know what the connection is, but it would be a very interesting area to examine, and I think that would be a good salon discussion. So yeah, family obviously not only does not end with blood, it's like still genetics pass around just through like spit or something. That's right. Take it. Hey.
Hi. So my question is, who was your favorite person or people to work with on the show?
First of all, I would never answer that even if I had an honest answer, because that's just. But actually, honestly, I loved working with everyone on the show, including all the crew that not all of you got to know, but so many people have been working there for a long time, and it's just a really supportive, awesome environment. there's some kind of like magical combination to me of like a lack of ego, a sense of humor, but also like a very strong work ethic, and a kindness and an intelligence that just makes it a really fun set to work on. And I dearly love everyone here. Now, of course, I have a special affinity for Misha. We've connected on so many issues that we care about in the world, and he's given me the opportunity of a job that I love more than anything I've ever loved in my life, which is working with Random Act. So, he's got something on everyone in that, but that's a very specific circumstance. That has nothing to do with me, thinking he is, I don't know, like putting him above everyone else. It's just that I think he's awesome. So, does that answer some of what?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Well, one of the things I really like about Meg is that she goes from being an enemy to a friend of the main characters, and I was wondering what your favorite type of character development is, and what's a character that represents that for you?
My favorite type of character development and character, okay. I love evolution, and I love self-examination, and I think they've done a pretty good job with many of the characters with getting to see that. I've been really impressed with what they're doing with Jack. I think that through him they've gotten to acknowledge a lot of kind of very human flaws and hurts, and where we can go off, and where we can do right, and all of those questions that are so important to ask and so important to examine, and yet they've done it through a non-human scenario. So yeah, I think I've also always loved Chuck as a character. For a similar reason, you're able to ask these big questions, but again, they're actually very human questions. What does it mean to be responsible? What does it mean to create something? How responsible are you for those creations? All these, I don't know, I think they ask really, really, really important questions through these characters. But yeah, I've been loving the examination of what Jack is going through, but although it's very painful, because you also see how hurt we can be, and how that can spiral out. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I do like Jack's development too, and how it shows that like whatever they say your fate is, you can kind of do whatever you want with that and be your own person.
Yeah, but also how important human connection is, and our connection to each other. And when it goes off and that's severed, or when we betray each other or don't trust each other, how that can turn everything negative. And I think that that's a really, really important lesson. I think that that's where we're at as a society in a lot of ways. We need to start connecting and start coming from a place of non-judgment. I know I'm riffing, or I'm going off on a tangent, but I had something that really touched me the other day, where I was in a scenario and someone was being a bit snappy, and someone at a desk, and they were supposed to be serving me, their customers serving me, whatever, and they were being very snappy and very rude and whatever, and I just, rather than going into anger in response, I looked at her and I said, "What's going on?" Because I just suddenly thought, maybe it's a really hard day. And she started crying, and it just turned out things had gone really awry, and no one had showed up to help, and she didn't know what she was doing, and so we ended up having this real beautiful moment of connection. And things turned around, and I would have missed that opportunity if I'd just gone into the kind of my selfish mode of this is what I want, and you're being rude and how dare you, and gotten combative. So I'd love as a world if we started looking through each other's eyes a bit more, and I think that's what Jack really needed, and because he didn't get that at a crucial moment, things went really off, and that's a good lesson, so. Yeah.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. My question was, what is a piece of literature that's like your favorite that you just keep in your heart with you always?
Really hard because there are actually many. I'll be honest, I love the Harry Potter books and I love that world. That's always in my heart. It's like, that will always be there. One of my first loves was, I actually fell in love with Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I like things that span a lot of time where you get to see societies and characters evolve and change, and how we all, like what might look one way through a certain lens at a certain time in the grand scheme, in the macrocosm, evolves very differently. And I think, so I really love that book for that reason. But there are so many that have forever changed me and always stay in my heart. But yeah, I think like if I had to pick a set of books that was the only books I had access to and had to keep rereading or whatever, I think Harry Potter would probably be the series. What about you?
That's actually a hard question too. So
It's a really hard question, but I had to answer it.
But actually, I read a book recently called Damsel.
Okay.
And it is about a girl who the prince comes and saves the damsel. And she doesn't have any memory of anything. And it's this book about her finding her place and realizing that just because this man comes along and saves her, that she is not just his, she is her own. And it really kind of stuck out to me.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Hey.
So you've got a lot of really interesting lines of dialogue and interactions on the show. Some of the
At
funniest
the
ones.
best.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like I was really lucky on that front.
Absolutely. And so I wanted to know what some of your favorite either one-liners or your favorite scenes were.
So many. And this is where you get, no matter how snarky and sarcastic or whatever I can be, honestly, in my heart, I love that last scene with Sam, and I love getting to say, "Go save your mother, my unicorn." That was the ultimate moment for me, and I love that you got to see, I feel like you got an examination of truth, and that you got to see a truth in Meg that you never got to see in any other scene. So that one speaks to my heart, but then there were so many great ones. I love the pizza man scene, not just for the kiss. No, but I thought that was a great moment of getting to be part of a dynamic that was really interesting amongst all of us. And again, I loved Meg's bravery. And I love that it was a very not flashy bravery, which you don't often see. And I love that about her. I also love, there was a moment, I think it was the same episode Kate Sheet, where she was being tortured. And I thought that was a really great examination of who she was. So like I said, things like you're putting that thing in all the wrong places, that was fun. But it was also part of Meg's strength that I loved, was she was never gonna let him have ownership over her. Even if whatever he was doing to her body, it would never touch her, and she wouldn't let it. And I thought that was incredible and cool. And then there were really fun ones aren't you a little more short for a stormtrooper getting to have a Star Wars? like getting to allude to Starwood, that was amazing. You're making my meat suit all dewy was really fun. There was so many great lines, and I loved all the nicknames she had for Cass, like my little tree topper, and Clarence, and yeah. What about you?
I really enjoyed pretty much all of your interactions in the episode where Meg and Dean are going to find Emmanuel to save Sam, because there's the plot dynamic. Since you know that it's Castiel, all the different interactions and kind of jabs at Dean for not saying anything shows a lot of character, and it was really interesting.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I fell in love with the character, and I feel like I did get the best dialogue. So, thank you for asking.
Hello, I have a comment and a question. Yesterday at the autograph table, you were talking bad about your handwriting, and I wanted to let you know that yours is still exponentially better than mine.
Well, thank you. You must have really terrible handwriting.
And then my wife and I are also really big bookworms, and I was curious if you had read a book called Leviathan Wakes. It's in like the Expanse series, and it's one of my personal favorites right now.
So what's the name again?
Leviathan Wakes.
Leviathan Wakes. I'll remember that, because I remember the Leviathan. Like, I have a good association.
If you forget that one too, the second book is Abaddon's Gate, so it's easy to remember.
Oh wow, Abaddon's Gate. Okay, yeah. I'll get this. That's awesome. Thank you. I love a good book recommendation. Yeah.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Which supernatural cast member do you think Meg would connect with most?
Which cast member would Meg connect with? So this is an interesting. So it's real life people and character. That's really, really fascinating. Oh my goodness. I have no idea. I feel like, okay, so
I should get along with Mark Shepard.
Mark Shepard, yeah, I think she might. I definitely think Meg and Crowley were actually a good pair. Like, if they hadn't been enemies, they probably should have been married. Yeah, Mark, I think, is a pretty good call. I think he could also maybe keep up with her wit and so forth. So yeah, thank you for that. That was helpful. Yeah, I was trying to go through all the people. The thing is, it's a really, really kind and nice group of people. So I feel like she would eat most of them. Like, not literally, but you know, it just, yeah, she probably wouldn't have been very indulgent of that. But maybe deep down she would have gotten along with people. I think Misha would have fascinated her in a similar way, casted. But what do you think?
I think she would have connected with Mark Shepard.
Yeah, Mark Shepard. We're all in agreement there. That's awesome. I love that. Thank you.
Hi. This is my first convention, so I'm a little nervous, but
I hope you're having a good time, though.
Oh, I'm having an amazing time. This is awesome. My question was, I was wondering how you think Meg would have reacted if she would have seen Castiel when he was possessed by Lucifer in season 11.
I've been asked that question before. I actually kind of got in trouble because one time I made a little quip, and I was like, well, she'd think it was all kinds of awesome. Because it was like all the guys she's attracted to in one body. Like, that's, you know. But actually I got in trouble because someone pointed out, that's a little like rape culture, like not cool. And I was like, yeah, that's I get that. I meant it, you know, lightly, but I won't, I want to acknowledge, I'm like, no, we're talking consensual. But yeah, I don't know. She actually, deep down, she might have been very confused. Yeah, yeah, I think it would have been a combination. I think she would have definitely played that she was very cool with it, but I think her unexplainable, if you want to call it, love and connection to Cass actually would have made her angry at Lucifer for what he was doing. So, yeah, that's like a more honest answer than my quick, witty quip, but which I feel was very vague. But she would have said something like that too. So, yeah. Thank you for that.
Hi, I'm Lisa. Being a single mother, I try to be a strong role model for my daughter. And you had mentioned yesterday that your mother had you watch Alien because it had a strong female lead. And I was wondering if there were any other movies that you would recommend with a strong female lead, and did it start you liking scary movies?
Okay, first part, so yeah, my mom let me see Aliens when it first came out because the Sigourney Weaver character so spoke to me, so that, just to give you all the background. And then now there are many more. I loved personally, like, Captain Marvel, Rey in the new Star Wars. I'm trying to think. There are more and more coming out. I thought all the characters in Black Panther, all the female characters in Black Panther were really awesome. I don't want to sound nitpicky. I'm a little bit on the fence with Wonder Woman, because I think it's a very strong character, but I also think she was kind of sexualized, so I'm like, I don't know what you would know more what your daughter would take away. I love the fact that, like, in the new Star Wars incarnations and stuff, they're really not sexualized. I don't think Captain Marvel is either.
She happened to really love Wonder Woman, but I think for different reasons.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that goes back to what you were saying. So I don't particularly like scary movies. There's an interesting thing we do when we're kids, which is we kind of take away what we want to out of films. And I remember that being a film about a woman saving a little girl and a cat. So that was what I took away from Aliens. There was a strong woman who saved a little girl with a cat, and it was awesome. And so it actually kind of surprised me years later when I saw it again, and I was like, there was a lot of other things happening in that film. So yeah, I think that's wonderful. And if Wonder Woman speaks to her, I think that's a really great thing. Because there are so many good lessons in that one, too.
Well, she really liked Xena, so she...
Nice. Xena is another great one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Besides Random Acts, have you participated in any other charities?
Well, I've always been pretty active. Like, I tried to help out in any way I could with many charities since I was a kid. And because I started acting young too, I was in a soap opera from when I was 9 to when I was 15, and we would do charity events all the time. I was very passionate about animal charities when I was really young. I started asking, I think when I was around my 9th birthday or something, I started saying I didn't want physical presents. I wanted donations to my favorite charities, and they were usually animal charities at that time. I got very into environmental charities as well. Like when I did the clearance campaign, that money was going to Earth Justice, which I think is a great organization. They're fighting for environmental rights at a time when a lot's being rolled back, and I think it's really important. So yeah, I'm a bit of a charity nerd. I really like, there's a program at Oxford run by Skull World Forum for philanthropic minded. I don't know if any. I feel like I'm going off on really interesting things. But if you look up this whole World Forum, there's a lot of great discussions about how basically we do the most good we can in the world. So yeah, there's many things. I just became a fair trade ambassador, so I'm really excited about that. Yeah. Because I do believe there's so many ways that we can do good in the world. But of course, Random Acts has my heart and soul. So yeah. Does that help? Do you have anything to add? Are there like charities that you're really passionate about?
No, not really. I mean, Random Acts, but I haven't really helped like put forth anything really much.
I think one of the things that I'm so in love with Random Acts and that I love getting to be a part of is a lot of charity and philanthropy feels a little bit elitist to me. It's kind of like if you don't have billions of dollars or you don't come from a certain level of success or whatever, there's an isolation, a feeling of you can't really make a difference. Random Acts is our whole mission, our whole goal is about connecting people and saying, no, you don't need anything other than your hands and your will and your heart, and we can do good and change the world and make it better. And it's so impactful and it ripples out. And I feel like that is really, really important these days so that we don't feel disempowered in our ability to connect to each other and do good in the world. And to connect to the issues that are important to all of us, because I really do believe I don't believe any of us can be happy if other people are suffering. So that's the core of my heart. So, thank you.
Hi, so my question is, like, even though you're doing all of the charity with Random Acts and stuff, would you ever consider going back into acting? Because I loved you as Meg, and I would love to see you like on the screen again.
Thank you for asking that. Thank you. I actually have started, so I got my headshots, and I officially said I'm starting acting again. That's solely because of all of you, because of doing this, because of being out there and connecting with so many people. I became really passionate about intersectional representation. I feel like the representation in our art is often really poor, especially for strong women, marginalized groups, and for especially women within marginalized groups. And doing the ladies panels and stuff, all of them started to encourage me. And Ruth has been one of the best champions for you have to be back on the show, and we need Rachel back on the show in a wheelchair. It really, everyone has been a really cool champion, and Misha has helped champion me too on that front. So because of that, I started to learn to embrace and through all of you to embrace myself again and realize how important it is that we all feel free to exist in this world, and that there be a sense that even if you don't fit this false, homogenized norm that we think we're supposed to fit, that you have a place in the world, and you're not only valid, you're needed. And so because of that, I started wanting to act again, because I think we need that on all fronts. Does that make sense?
Also, I want to side note that next year I really hope that Ruth and Kim are here, because I love them so much and I want to see the ladies panel.
Yeah,
that would be so much fun.
Yes, it honestly is the highlight of my life, having those friends. I'm very, very, very lucky.
But I need to see you on my TV again.
Okay, thank you. I will make that happen. Thank you for that. That was so amazing. And again, thank you all, because I'm not joking. It is because of you and the conversations we're having and your encouragement that I have found a place in the world again, and I want to champion all of you finding a place in the world too, and feeling like you belong here, because you so much do.
I have a question.
Yes.
My comment is that you really inspired me to, even after my diagnosis, that I can still be successful, and I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I also want to ask, did you think that you could inspire people with ailments and disabilities the way that you have?
No, not at all. I will be totally honest, I hid. I literally hid my illness for years, and then I hid away from the world for a couple of years after that. Like, I didn't know how to process it because we don't see those examples enough. And I didn't want to be a victim. I didn't know where I fit. I didn't know who I could be. And I was very prejudiced against myself, if I'm totally honest. And it's taken me years to figure out that that's BS, complete BS. And I'm so glad now that we can inspire each other back into the world because it's really needed and you are so valid. And if anything, it not only can you still contribute, like, it's not a despite, it's that you can contribute more because of. Like, honestly, the work that I get to do with Random Acts and everything is more of what I want to be in the world than I've ever had the opportunity to be before, and I wouldn't have had that occur had this not happened. So, find those things, and thank you for fighting it.
Well, because of you, I actually did end up going to college, even though my scholarship for pre-med got taken away because of my condition, and I will be graduating a year early with a bachelor's in economics.
Literally, I just want you to know, if that was the only thing I ever heard in my life, I would feel like I was glad I existed. So, thank you. You rock. I could, like, if I could exist in, I would probably be, I'd either be Dumbledore or I'd be Hermione. I don't know. Probably Hermione, but I also I value Dumbledore so much, so yeah, that's where I'd land. What about you?
Probably a character from Gazer. Nice.
Yeah. Nice. I also would love to be Rey in Star Wars. I think she's pretty awesome. Yeah, and I'm so on the rampage of I wish we could stop gendering and so forth. So my own one of my problems is anytime it's it doesn't have to be a female labeled character or whatever, and that's why I'm trying to figure out my feelings on these things. Just FYI. Yeah, but that's a good choice.
Thank you.
Take care.
Hi, Rachel. I'd like to know how long it takes to make an average episode, both learning your lines and then the actual filming.
It's a pretty quick process. It's a week of filming, and I'm trying to remember, I think you get the script 2 weeks in advance, maybe? But for the people who are regular, they're doing many episodes, there's not much chance at all because you finish up one episode, you're shooting the next episode. So really they're probably learning their lines days before, if that. So yeah, it's a very, very fast process. I feel lucky. So I started out, I did a soap opera from when I was 9 to when I was 15. And that was a really good training for having to learn lines very quickly, and a lot of them. Because that's you're talking hours, and you're running through very, very, very fast. And there's no you don't get a lot of multiple takes. So I think it's good training for Supernatural because it's a very intense schedule. So yeah. Did that help?
Thank you. And how about the actual filming?
It's a week long.
Takes a week per episode? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
If
So we all know you're a big Harry Potter fan.
Really? How would you know that? Not that I've got a Gryffindor sticker like right there. Okay, yes.
So if you could be a Hogwarts professor, what would you teach?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think defense against the dark arts. Even though that was like a cursed position, that was like, still, I think that's where my heart would be. Because the reason, so like, I do always test as a Gryffindor, like every single test. And the reason is because I have this ridiculous, not very smart grave streak. Of like, or like the social justice warrior, which I guess is supposed to be an insult, but like I take as a high compliment. That aspect of me that would like, that will jump in front of, you know, a bullet or whatever and be like, I'm fine, I got this. And then not have it, but yeah, that's, so I would like arming people with, like, you know, children with that. What about you?
Dark arts as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Let's beat those dark. Like there's a lot going on in the world right now that's got me revved up to a feeling like we need to do something to change things. So let's fight those evil forces.
Hi Rachel, I met you yesterday.
Yes. How are you doing today?
I'm doing better today. Thank you so much. That's why I came up here. I wanted to thank you so much. You gave me so much great advice about my neurologic disorder and not to fight it because that does make it worse. And I wanted to thank you so much for that.
Thank you. And I just want to say, like, I saw the change in you, and it was one of the most special moments. Like when you really get to witness someone's whole, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like aura, being, whatever, change.
I've seen so many neurologists and stuff, and nobody's ever told me any of the things that you did that have helped me. You know, they just want to put pills down my throat. But everything you told me has helped so much. And, you know, I'm hitting a freaking purple and black unicorn card, you know. I don't care. But my other thing is, are you going to write a book? I would love for you to write a book.
Thank you for saying that. I will take that encouragement. Because it's one of those hurdles that I have trouble, like, allowing myself to get over. I even got a tattoo. One of my tattoos is a feather quill. And it's on my right hand to try to remind myself to write. So that means that I feel that means a lot. And then also, do you mind, I just want to share with everyone some of what, if you don't mind. So what I was saying is, what I found having a neurological disorder is one of the worst things is if you fight it, especially when symptoms come and go and they're odd and they can be really trying. And if you're trying to like force yourself to be able to do something you were able to do before, it literally makes the whole system shut down sometimes. Like it's really hard, and the stress hormones, everything from a physiological basis, it's so unhealthy and it has the exact opposite effect. And the other thing is in terms of happiness, and I think this is something that whatever we're going through, we can all learn, is that I've really learned that I can only be happy if I embrace what I've got right now and what I can have. And there's always so much joy to be found. Every life, like there's so many opportunities and there's so much joy, but we get frustrated because it's not the way we thought it was supposed to look. And especially when your body's changing or things aren't going the way that you expected. And if you keep trying to control it and force it back into that box, you will be miserable. So that's some of what we were talking about. I hope that helps.
That's why I want to say, because, you know, you said, I just went like brain fart.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, you just because you had told me all those things and everything, and I mean, that helped me so much, like I said, but I also look at you, because you said earlier that Meg was a warrior. You're a warrior. And I think a lot of what was going on in your life was being actually portrayed through Meg in the show. That's how I look at it. And you're my freaking role model, and I love you. So, thank you so much.
I just wish you so much happiness, and I hope you find that joy.
I will now. I will.
And yes, and so again, it's like not trying to force things into the molds that we thought or we were programmed into thinking or what they should fit into. I honestly, my biggest problem, one of the reasons I stopped acting for years is I wanted to be a strong woman. I love getting to embody that kind of warrior spirit. And I felt like when my body started to fail, that I couldn't be that anymore. And I think I was very wrong in that conclusion. Because again, it's like, I found so much more strength in fighting through and embodying in a different way. And it's not a physical body that's able, I can't do the same things physically, but there is so much more strength within. So, yeah.
You have both portrayed and shown us female role models that are strong and praiseworthy and worth emulating. Have you given thought to what male role models are out there, either within the show or without, and what qualities do you look at to say that is a good man?
That's a really amazing, thank you for that. First of all, it's an amazing question. I actually feel very strongly. I think that the two are inextricable. We feed each other. And so that's why to me, feminism is not about fighting for the rights of women only. It's like, no, so all of us can be healthier and happier and free to express ourselves and be ourselves. And I think the most masculine thing to me is when someone can be authentically them and feel free to be vulnerable, to break molds, to be strange, to do whatever it is, to not fit the norm. And so it's those characters that stand out to me. When we see that it represented in males, I think that's really, really healthy for all of us. And again, I don't think it's one or the other. I think we are all together in this. So, I personally, I love some of recent film characters and stuff. I love so many examples. Whether I do like superhero films and stuff. So I love the new Black Panther. I also love Newt Scamander. In Fantastic Beasts and stuff, and again, it's like, to me, he was such a strong character, such an example of strength, but in not that, it wasn't in a physical, dominating kind of way, so yeah, anyway.
I think you have one more question. Can we count in real quick?
Yeah.
My name is Paul. Watching Supernatural completely changed the way that I understood the meaning behind Carry On My Wayward Son. I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. Has there been any show or book or media of any kind that has changed the way that music, a specific song, what it means to you?
Oh, that is an impossible question to answer, because absolutely, yes. But so many that we would be here for another couple of hours. There is no part of me that is not ever changed and affected by the art that is around me. And it's one of the most powerful things that art can do is reach on a deep, deep soul level, for lack of a better word, and change your whole view of the world in a way that I don't think intellect, a debate and whatever ever can, because it's coming from within. As opposed to without. So yeah, I'm ever changed always by all the books I read, by every piece of music I listen to, and I'm so grateful for it. And it all affects each other. It all affects each other. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, good people of Dallas, Plano, and wherever the hell you're from. That right there is Rachel Miner. Robbie, sometimes it's all light.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Where are you going?